we are talking about the wisdom of ovulation, menstrual phase and ovulation, which both are anchor points. Follicular and luteal are transition phases. And so while they carry different energy, there are some similarities in the quality. And that's the same with the menstrual phase and ovulatory phase as well. Even though their primary lens and their focus is different, the quality is very similar. Okay. So like I said, these are anchors. These are points when we know exactly where we are. Okay. Where in the other phases, it's kind of like, you feel your way into, it may take a few days to fully land in the energy of those phases. With menstrual and ovulatory, there's a more distinct, like we've arrived and we know where we are. And this happens both at a hormonal level, where ovulation is peak moment in all of our hormones, and menstrual is the lowest point of our reproductive hormones. And so you can kind of see that moment more clearly. It's also very evident just in our body. There's biological markers, right? When we're on our period, we see the discharge of the uterine lining and blood, and we see that. So we have that visible marker of this is where we are. Our ovulatory phase has a similar marker. In this case, it's discharge. It's when we have a lot more discharge and the quality is clear. There's a lot of it. It's stretchy. Like it has that more like I'm here type of vibe. And so it's something that we can see. It's something that we can feel and we know, okay, we are in this phase. Energetically, it's the same. Okay, last month we talked about how the menstrual phase is ultimately here for truth. The menstrual phase shows us what's here. And in identifying what's here, right, that can be physically what's here. So that can be discomfort. That can be a need for sleep. That can be a need for food or for space. But can also be emotional, mental, spiritual, like inner knowing, like deep truth of what is here, what is now, what is needed. Ovulatory has the same weight and intensity to it, but the primary lens in where it's bringing that truth. So I see menstrual phases, it's truth in the sense of what is here now. Ovulatory is truth in the what do I desire? What do I want? Where am I in a place of longing? Okay. So here we feel the gap. Okay. That we're projecting out more instead of being so focused inward here. What's here now? We're saying what is out there that I want? What is out there that I want to bring into the now, that I want to magnetize, that I want to bring here to myself? And this is so powerful. And this is also where we can see that, yes, ovulatory can be this peak window where we feel so amazing and we feel so good because we're just like full of life. Our hormones are supporting us. We feel more blissed out. Our libido is going to be higher. So we may just feel like more, just like more open to experience and pleasure and all the things. Okay. But recognize that this is something happening within us, right? Our partners are not doing anything different. They didn't learn any new moves. They didn't get any new outfit. Like nothing has changed, right? It's the lens has changed to being in the energy and the frequency of desire and longing, right? And when what we desire, when what we want is here and present, this is just a moment where we get to be kind of blissed out and high on life, right? Because we have access to the thing that we want. However, this is also a phase where we can experience a lot of frustration because we are so clear on this is what I want, this is what I desire. And that can be for you personally, it can be for your family, it can be in your relationship, it can be in your career or your business, like what it is that you want for your life. And if what you're experiencing in that moment is, I know what I want, but it feels so far. It feels so far out there. It feels so far away from me. And I don't know how to get it to me, right? And so often we are raised in paradigms and internalizing messages that the way to get that thing that's so far out there is through hard work. We need to try harder. We need to do more. That's not what the feminine magic of ovulatory phase teaches us. What the energy of ovulation teaches us is that you are here, fully in your power, fully in your energy, fully in your magnetism, and what you want is going to be magnetized to you. We see this even in the biological process of the egg and sperm meeting, right? Which, if you think about it at a biological level, like that's the purpose, right, of ovulation, is to create a new life. And at that level, what we have learned, right, back in the day when we didn't know anything and we couldn't actually look inside the body and see what was happening, the assumption was that the egg is a passive participant in this, and it is the sperm that's in this race, and the sperm is fighting to get to the egg, and it's the fastest and the quickest and the best that make it. No, that's not what happens. What happens in that process is the egg is literally sending out electrical frequency that is attracting the sperm that it wants, essentially. And not only is it attracting the things that it wants, but it's blocking things that it doesn't want. So this is not the fastest one to get there, the fastest sperm to get there. No, it is the one that I am magnetizing and calling in. So that is the energy that we want to tap into, but also that we want to recognize that we are already in. Like, that's how much power is in that energy. Okay. And we are already magnetizing and attracting things in. So we want to, if we see that we're in a place where the gap is really big, okay, maybe your relationship isn't where you want it to be. Maybe it's your relationship to your kids is not where you want it to be. Maybe your finances or just like a sense of abundance is not where you think it should be. Instead of going into like brainstorm mode, troubleshooting mode, like what are all the steps or what are all the things that I can do different, ovulation teaches us to sit back, but not to sit back in a passive way. It's to sort of stand back, lean back into our power and our energy, and allow what's for us, what's really for us, what the things that, not just what we can imagine, but the things that are beyond imagination, right? The things that are even better, right? Because if we're so focused on this happens a certain way, then that's the only way we can see it, and we can miss other things, right? So we're standing back in our power, and we're allowing these shifts and changes and insights and things to come to us. And now there's also an element of like feminine magic, okay, that is present here, okay, because we're literally, when we're ovulating, we're literally embodying at a biological level creation energy, okay? And the more that we can, work with that intentionally and consciously, because it's happening anyway, right? But the more that we work with it consciously, the more that it works for us in really powerful ways, and it starts to create the reality and the experiences that we want to have, versus the ones that aren't feeling so good. And I think the libido example is such a tangible example of this. Like I mentioned before, when we hit ovulation phase, our partners, boyfriends, men walking down the street, like they all, like, they look delicious. They look amazing. You want them. And you're like, why? Why today, right? What has changed? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except the energy and frequency that you're in. And when you're in creation mode, you see things in the world around you and the people around you that you're not seeing necessarily at other times. Okay, so we want to get into that energy so that we start to view the world from a place of possibility, from a place of what can happen, of what's possible, of highest potential, and not staying in these lower frequency of like, I guess this is good as it gets. And so when we're working in this energy and we're thinking about like the feminine magic of it, feminine magic says time is relative, right? Time is something we get to play in. We can collapse time, we can expand time, and we know this, right? I like to use the example of like potty training. An hour of vigilantly watching your kids like naked butt to make sure that you catch any sign of needing to get them to the potty in time is not the same hour, okay, as like an hour at the spa. There is nothing that feels longer than hyper focused awareness like on your kids like potty training experience. Okay, so even though it's the same sort of technical literal time, it's 60 minutes, the experience of that is not the same, right? So when we're wanting to get the things that we want that are far outside of us and bring them closer to us, it's not about doing more or trying harder or putting more hours in, right? It's about getting into the energetic place, being in the place that then attracts that sooner, right? Because what frequency are we sending out to those things that we want? What are the signals that we're sending? And I think that's also an important kind of piece of like the libido aspect is he behaving differently, or are you sending out different signals and he's responding to what's being put out there? Like, think about that. Has something changed outside of you, or are you sending out different signals? Okay, so how do we do this? How do we send out the signals that we want to send out? Okay, we do this by working with longing, working with that desire. So taking some time, like what, and I think the best way to do this isn't necessarily to be like, okay, every year of my life, what do I want? When you're in your next ovulatory phase and you want to work with this more specifically. And again, like I mentioned last month, this is not saying that you only can do this when you're in ovulatory phase. It's just saying during ovulatory phase, this energy and this process is the most amplified. So it's the easiest to practice with. It's the easy to get an embodied sense and experience of what it feels like and what it looks like, so that you can tap into that at other points in your month and your cycle. Okay. So the next time that you're in your ovulatory phase, carving out some space to journal, to reflect, to go on a walk and, think about it, to voice note it, whatever works for you. But first, take a few breaths and ask yourself, like, what area of my life is the most loud or the most present for me in this moment or this month? And focus on one area, because as much as we want to work with that feminine magic, it is the most powerful when it is focused. If it is going in 10 different directions, right, it's not as concentrated. And so as we begin working with this, we want to also bring in that consciousness and that sort of more masculine energy to hold it. So focusing on a single area of your life to start with, and inviting in the longing. What do you want this to look like? What do you want it to feel like? Where is it happening at? Like, let yourself, if you can visualize, imagine yourself, and if it's helpful, imagine yourself like in a year from now, in 3 years from now, like, what do you want this to look like and feel like? And really get as specific either into like what it looks like, if that's helpful for you to get really specific on the details of that like visualization. But more importantly, like, what does it feel like when you're in that place? And so whether you can visualize well or not, really what we're trying to get to is, what is the feeling of the thing we want? When you're in that situation. So let's just take a romantic relationship. If you're like, I want to be at a place where we have like date nights, and date nights feel spontaneous and they feel romantic and they feel whatever. What is under that? What do you get out of the romance and the things? Like, what is it that you feel? Do you feel loved, wanted? Do you feel like alive? Like, what is the energy and the feeling of it? And once you can name that well and you can feel it well, you know what it feels like in your body. Then you want to come back to real time, to the present moment, and say, in my current reality, what can I do? Where can I be? Who can I hang out with? Right? That brings me that same feeling. Not the same circumstances, not the same, situation necessarily, right? But what helps me to feel that now? And I think it's helpful a lot of times to not make it like, okay, well, if I ask my husband to do this, or I ask my boyfriend to do this, or you're like trying to get someone else to fulfill the need. That's not what I'm talking about. This is about where is that feeling currently available and present? And if you don't see anywhere where that's currently present, like coming externally, how can you create that for yourself? So one example of a time where I did this, and to just kind of bring in like a tangible thing to this. So last year, probably near like October, November, I was in just like a really tough spot, like in my business, and just like lacking a lot of clarity, but feeling like I was forcing. I was doing. I was working so hard, and it just felt like I was like going up against a wall. And I just like knew that this isn't working, and I don't know what will work. I don't know what the next step is, but like I know I need to pause. But in that period of pausing and pulling back, I knew I needed to change the signals I was putting out. I needed to change how I was feeling. And for me, the feeling that I was really working with is like the feeling of satisfaction, of having put in effort and it felt good and you got the return, like whatever it is, it's just like feeling satisfied. That was the feeling. And so I was looking at my life and saying like, okay, what things give me that feeling of satisfaction that I want to be getting, like in my work, that I want to be getting, in other areas of my life, and I'm not seeing it happen. And literally the things that I came up with, I started out with like, I had two things that I could think of. One was I really enjoy bike riding. And so I got into a daily habit almost every day of biking down. There's a canal near my house, and I found a route to get to the canal. And so not even that long, like maybe a couple miles of a bike ride. But when I got on that bike, I knew that it would just feel so good and feel so satisfying. And so the whole bike ride, I would just be bringing my attention to that feeling of satisfaction. And then the other one, I think, was like committing to like a nighttime skincare routine, and like taking my time through like a multi-step process. And just because like in slowing that down, like there was something that felt so good and so satisfying of like doing the steps. Okay, and not having to think about it. I'm just going to do the steps and it's going to feel good. In doing that for a couple months, how do I want to say this? What I magnetized in was a scholarship to a 6-month container with a human design coach who does like human design, but like so much more, like deep subconscious work and all the things. And that 6 months was such a catalyst and like completely changed me. Like I feel like a completely different person since going through that program. And it was literally, and since then, like the amount of satisfaction that I feel in various areas of my life, like that has expanded. That feeling has expanded to so many things where I can just feel that presence and that joy. But it literally started with like, I'm going to go on a bike ride and I'm just going to feel as good as I possibly can on that bike ride. Okay, this is the energy that's encoded in the ovulatory phase and in that tangible representation, that tangible manifestation of creation energy. And the way that it manipulates time and it manipulates our reality. So your homework is finding one thing, even if it's one simple thing that you can do consistently, daily if possible, but without like the pressure of like, if I miss a day, like it's ruined. Like we're taking pressure out of it. It's just devoting to the practice of the feeling that you want to be experiencing in one or more areas of your life. And that's how we're going to start to build the muscle, build the practice of working in creation energy, and building our confidence in our ability to create the reality that we want to see in our everyday life.